Ever felt like your kindness, your stability, the very things you were told make a good man, somehow leave you standing on the sidelines in the complex dance of attraction? You've seen it. Perhaps you've lived it. That frustrating paradox where good intentions don't always ignite that spark, leaving you questioning what truly draws people together. It's a silent ache for many, this feeling that the rule book you were given is missing crucial pages. But what if the popular, often harsh explanations for this are only a fraction of a much larger, more profound truth? What if the real answers lie not in changing who you are into some kind of beast, but in understanding the deepest, often unseen parts of yourself and others, insights first explored by thinkers like Carl Jung? If you're searching for a path that goes beyond surface-level advice, a journey into genuine self-discovery and the real psychological underpinnings of connection and inner strength, then stay with me, because we're about to explore it together. That raw, almost primal echo, the one that whispers about the beast, the untamed, unapologetic force that seems to command attention, to stir something deep and undeniable. Many of us have heard that whisper, perhaps even felt its allure, especially when our own efforts at kindness or understanding seem to fall flat. It's a narrative that's hard to ignore because it taps into a genuine frustration, a feeling that the world isn't playing by the rules you were taught. And in that confusion, simplistic answers can feel like a lifeline. The idea that attraction is just a brutal game, that women are wired one way and men another, end of story.
These explanations, often delivered with a harsh certainty, can feel like a key unlocking a hidden door, finally making sense of painful experiences. But here's a crucial question. Are these keys unlocking the whole truth, or just a single, dimly lit room? The danger with these easy labels, nice guy, beast, is that they can trap us in a false dichotomy,
forcing a choice between being a doormat or a dominator. This often overlooks the vast, rich landscape of human psychology, the kind of terrain Carl Jung invited us to explore. He suggested that true strength and authentic magnetism don't come from adopting an extreme persona, but from a courageous journey inward, a journey to understand and integrate all parts of ourselves, especially those we've learned to hide or fear. This path doesn't offer quick fixes or a simple playbook for winning at attraction. Instead, it promises something far more valuable: genuine self-knowledge and the capacity for profound, authentic connection. So, if these simplistic explanations have left you wanting more, if you sense there's a richer, more empowering way to understand yourself and the intricate dance of human connection, then our exploration into the depths of your own psychology, guided by the wisdom of Carl Jung, is where our true adventure begins. Are you ready to look beyond the surface? To uncover the hidden architect of your desires and your destiny? Indeed, the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, with his characteristically sharp gaze, pointed out some uncomfortable truths about human nature and attraction, suggesting we're driven by primal, often unconscious instincts. And while there's a certain raw honesty in that perspective, it paints a somewhat limited picture of our vast inner worlds. What if I told you there was a contemporary of Freud, a brilliant mind who took these initial explorations of the unconscious and expanded them into a universe of profound depth and meaning? His name was Carl Gustav Jung, and his work offers us a far more nuanced map to understanding not just that we are driven by hidden forces, but what those forces are and how they truly shape our lives, our personalities, and yes, very powerfully, our attractions. Jung proposed that our conscious mind, the part of us that reasons, plans, and interacts with the everyday world, is merely the tip of the iceberg. Beneath this surface lies the vast dynamic realm of the unconscious. And this isn't just a dusty storeroom for forgotten memories or repressed desires, as some early theories suggested. For Jung, the unconscious is a living, breathing wellspring of energy, creativity, intuition, and yes, also our deepest wounds and primal patterns. He distinguished between the personal unconscious, unique to each of us, holding our own lived experiences, forgotten moments, and undeveloped potentials, and a revolutionary concept called the collective unconscious. This deeper layer, he argued, is universal, a shared inheritance of human experience, populated by what he called archetypes, ancient, universal patterns and images that have recurred in myths, dreams, and religions across cultures and throughout history. Think of instincts. Schopenhauer talked about instincts. Jung saw archetypes as the psychic counterpart to instincts, the patterns of behavior and perception that emerge from this collective well. So when we talk about attraction, Jung's perspective invites us to look beyond mere biology or learned behaviors. It suggests that when we feel an inexplicable pull towards someone, or find ourselves repeating certain relational patterns, we might be tapping into these deep archetypal currents. The forces at play are more complex, more symbolic, and ultimately more revealing about our own inner structure than simple instinct alone could ever explain. It's not to say instincts don't play a role. They absolutely do. But Jung provides a framework for understanding the psyche's engagement with those instincts, the stories it weaves around them. This isn't about dismissing the raw power of attraction. It's about understanding its deeper psychological grammar, recognizing that the unconscious is not just a passive recipient of societal programming or a cauldron of base urges. It's an active, intelligent system within us, constantly seeking expression, balance, and wholeness. And it's in this hidden realm that many of the true drivers of attraction lie waiting to be understood. So, if the unconscious holds such sway over us, what specific elements within it are most at play when it comes to attraction, our sense of self, and our deepest connections? In our next part, we'll venture into one of Jung's most fascinating and often misunderstood concepts, the shadow. So we've established that much of our inner life, including the powerful currents of attraction, is steered by the vast unconscious mind. But within this realm, Carl Jung identified a particularly potent and often misunderstood aspect he termed the shadow. Now, the word shadow itself might conjure images of darkness, negativity, the parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden. And it's true, the shadow does contain the aspects of our personality that we've deemed unacceptable, undesirable, or bad. These are the traits we were taught to suppress as children to gain approval, to fit in, or to avoid punishment. Our anger, our selfishness, our envy, our vulnerabilities, our inner beast, if you will. But Jung's profound insight was that the shadow is not merely a repository for our flaws. It is also the container of our unlived life, our repressed creativity, our stifled assertiveness, our raw, untamed vitality, our hidden talents, and even our capacity for deep joy and passion. Think of it this way. Anything that wasn't acceptable to our family, our culture, or even our own conscious ego got relegated to this shadowy realm. So, if you were consistently told that being assertive was rude, your assertiveness likely went into your shadow. If expressing strong emotions was seen as weak, those emotions found a home there. Consequently, many of us walk around with a significant portion of our potential power and aliveness locked away, disowned. Now, how does this relate to attraction? In a few crucial ways. Firstly, what is unconscious and unowned within us doesn't just disappear, it often gets projected. We tend to see our own disowned shadow qualities, both positive and negative, in other people. That intense irritation you feel towards someone's arrogance. It might be your own repressed arrogance you're reacting to. That almost magnetic admiration you have for someone's carefree spirit or daring nature. It could be your own unlived adventurousness calling out to you through them. Secondly, and this is key to understanding some of the dynamics we touched on earlier, we can be powerfully, almost compulsively, attracted to individuals who embody the very shadow traits we have denied in ourselves. They live out what we don't dare to. Their very presence can feel electrifying because they represent a missing piece of our own wholeness. This is often where the nice guy who has disowned his aggression, his edge, or his raw masculine energy finds himself inexplicably drawn to someone who seems to effortlessly embody those qualities. It's not necessarily that they want to be that person, but that person resonates with a deep, unacknowledged part of their own psyche. The common mistake here is to either try to completely eliminate the shadow, which is impossible and would leave us sterile, or to let it run rampant, becoming a caricature of negativity or unchecked impulse. Jung's path, the path of individuation, is about courageously turning to face the shadow, to acknowledge its contents without judgment, and to begin the lifelong work of integrating its energy and wisdom into our conscious lives. This doesn't mean becoming a bad person. It means becoming a whole person, a person with access to their full range of human qualities, their light and their darkness, using them consciously and constructively. This integrated strength, this authenticity that comes from owning all of who you are, is profoundly magnetic. It's the difference between a two-dimensional sketch and a vibrant, three-dimensional being. Confronting our shadow can be challenging, yes, but it's a vital part of the journey to authentic power and deep, meaningful connections. But how exactly does this hidden part of us interact with our perception of and attraction to the other, particularly the feminine? What happens when our shadow meets that inner image of the feminine, what Jung called the anima? That's what we'll explore next. So we've journeyed into the shadow, that often disowned part of ourselves holding both challenging traits and hidden strengths. But our inner landscape, according to Jung, is populated by more than just the shadow. For men, there exists another profoundly influential archetypal figure, the anima. The anima is, in essence, the unconscious feminine aspect within a man's psyche. It's not about a man being effeminate or less masculine in a stereotypical sense. Rather, the anima represents the sum of his inherent feminine psychological qualities, such as his capacity for relatedness, his emotional life, his intuition, creativity, receptivity, and his connection to the soul or inner world. This inner feminine image begins to form from our earliest experiences with significant female figures in our lives. Our mother, primarily, but also sisters, aunts, teachers, and later, through cultural depictions of femininity in stories, art, and media. Now, here's where it becomes particularly relevant to attraction and relationships. Much like the shadow, the anima is often unconscious, and we tend to project this inner image onto the women we encounter in the external world. Have you ever experienced that almost instantaneous, overwhelming feeling of falling in love, perhaps at first sight? Or felt an almost divine inspiration in the presence of a particular woman, as if she were a muse awakening your deepest potentials? Jung would suggest that these powerful experiences are often fueled by anima projection. We are not seeing the real flesh and blood woman before us in her entirety. Instead, we are seeing our own internalized, often idealized image of the feminine reflected back at us through her. The consequences of this unconscious projection can be far-reaching. When we project an impossibly perfect or specific anima image onto a partner, we set them, and the relationship, up for inevitable disappointment. No real person can consistently embody an unconscious ideal. This can also lead to repetitive relationship patterns. A man might find himself repeatedly drawn to a certain type of woman, not realizing he is continually seeking out someone who matches a particular, perhaps undeveloped or even wounded aspect of his own anima. The real woman, with her own complexities and individuality, becomes obscured by the veil of this powerful projection. It's like looking at someone through a beautifully colored, but ultimately distorting lens. The common mistake is to believe this projected image is the other person, or to think that developing one's anima means losing one's masculinity. On the contrary, Jung argued that a conscious relationship with one's anima leads to greater emotional intelligence, creativity, and a more profound sense of wholeness, a more complete and mature masculinity. Recognizing and beginning to withdraw these projections is a crucial step towards seeing others and ourselves more clearly. It's about taking back that idealized image from the external world and realizing it as a part of our own psychic potential. Understanding the anima, then, is like finding another vital key to the unconscious patterns that govern our attractions and our relational lives. But what happens when this inner feminine image, laden with our projections and expectations, encounters the raw, untamed energy of the shadow, both our own shadow and that of the person we're drawn to? How do these two powerful forces dance together to create the intense attractions, the passionate connections, and sometimes the devastating conflicts we so often experience? That's the intricate dynamic we'll begin to unravel in our next segment. We've explored the potent inner realities of the shadow, and for men, the anima. These aren't just isolated concepts. They are dynamic forces that profoundly influence how we perceive, interact with, and are attracted to others. Think of your relationships, especially the most intense ones, as a kind of unseen dance floor where these unconscious parts of you and your partner are constantly in motion, often leading the steps without your conscious awareness. When we first meet someone, particularly if there's a strong initial pull, it's rarely just our conscious personalities engaging. More often, it's a complex interplay of projections. We project our own disowned shadow qualities, both the ones we admire and the ones we fear, onto the other person. And for a man, he projects his anima, his inner feminine ideal, onto the woman before him. This is where the phrase, opposites attract, can find some of its deepest psychological roots. Sometimes, a man's conscious, perhaps overly controlled persona might be irresistibly drawn to a woman who seems to embody his repressed shadow, his unlived wildness, his spontaneity, or his assertiveness. Her very being seems to call out to that dormant part of him, promising a sense of aliveness or completion. Conversely, his own shadow might find a strange resonance with hers, a kind of unspoken understanding in the depths. Similarly, the anima projection is incredibly powerful in this initial dance. A man might see in a woman the embodiment of his soul image, the one who seems to promise understanding, nurturing, or inspiration on a profound level. He might be captivated not just by her external qualities, but by the way she seems to perfectly reflect this inner feminine ideal he carries. But what happens when the music changes, when the initial intoxication of these projections begins to fade? This is often where conflict, confusion, and disappointment enter the relationship. The woman he idealized through his anima projection inevitably reveals herself to be a real, complex human being, with her own shadow, her own needs, and her own agenda, which may not align with his unconscious fantasy. His perfect muse might have a temper or insecurities or ambitions that challenge his own. And his shadow, if it has been unacknowledged, might react with anger, withdrawal, or control when these projections are shattered, or when his own unowned needs aren't met. For instance, a man who has repressed his own need for emotional expression, part of his shadow, might be initially drawn to an emotionally expressive woman, anima projection, but later find himself overwhelmed or critical of her emotions when they trigger his own discomfort. The common mistake is to then blame the other person for changing or for not being who we thought they were. In reality, it's often our own projections that are dissolving, forcing us to confront both the real person and our own unconscious material. The journey towards more conscious relating involves the courageous work of withdrawing these projections, of recognizing our shadow parts within ourselves rather than only seeing them in others, and of integrating our anima so we do not need to find its complete expression solely in an external partner. It means learning to see the other person in their wholeness, light, shadow, and everything in between, and relating to them from a place of greater self-awareness. This dance of shadow and anima is intricate, a constant push and pull of unconscious forces. But understanding its steps offers immense power to transform our relationships from reactive dramas into conscious partnerships. But if the beast we sometimes feel drawn to, or the beast we sense within ourselves, is often a manifestation of this raw, untamed shadow energy, how do we learn to channel that power not into destructive patterns, but into mature, constructive strength? Is there a way to be powerful without succumbing to the unbridled, often problematic aspects of the purely instinctual beast? We'll explore this crucial question by looking at Jung's inspiring archetypes of mature masculinity, starting with the warrior and the magician in our next part. We've journeyed through the often turbulent waters of the shadow and the anima, seeing how these unconscious forces can drive our attractions and conflicts. That raw, sometimes chaotic energy we might label the inner beast, the part that feels untamed, instinctual, even dangerous, is undeniably potent. But if left unexamined and unintegrated, it can indeed lead to destructive patterns, both for ourselves and in our relationships. Carl Jung, however, didn't just identify these primal energies. He also illuminated the path towards channeling them into something far more constructive, more mature, and ultimately more empowering. This is where the concept of archetypes of mature masculinity comes into play. These aren't rigid roles to be acted out, but rather universal, symbolic patterns of energy, behavior, and potential that reside within the psyche of every man. The journey isn't about becoming these archetypes in a literal sense, but about consciously accessing, developing, and balancing their unique energies within ourselves. Let's start with two of the most dynamic, the warrior and the magician. The warrior archetype, in its fullest expression, is the energy of focused action, courage, and discipline. He is the part of us that can set clear boundaries, protect what is valuable, and stand firm in the face of adversity. He's not about mindless aggression. The true warrior has a code, a purpose. He brings skill, clarity, and a decisive yes or no to life's challenges. This is where the raw force of the shadow can be transformed. Instead of reactive anger, the warrior energy provides assertive action. Instead of fear-driven defensiveness, it offers principled protection. However, like all archetypes, the warrior has its shadow aspects. If its energy is undeveloped or becomes dominant and unchecked, it can devolve into cruelty, bullying, a need to constantly find an enemy, or the inability to be vulnerable or yield. Then there's the magician. This archetype is the master of knowledge, wisdom, and the understanding of hidden processes, both in the inner world of the psyche and the outer world of systems and techniques. The magician is the part of us that seeks understanding, that can detach and observe, that thinks strategically, and that values insight and awareness. He is the master of his craft, the keeper of secret knowledge, the one who can see the patterns others miss. This archetype offers a powerful alternative to solving problems through brute force alone. It utilizes intellect, intuition, and the power of focused consciousness. Think of the skilled therapist, the visionary scientist, the insightful strategist, or any man who has achieved a deep mastery through dedicated learning and reflection. But the magician, too, has its shadow. This can manifest as manipulation, a cold and detached intellectualism, using knowledge for selfish gain or to control others, or becoming lost in theories without practical application. The crucial point is that these archetypal energies require conscious cultivation. They don't just magically appear in their mature form. It's about recognizing these potentials within you and intentionally developing their positive attributes while staying vigilant against their shadow expressions. The warrior and the magician offer us profound blueprints for harnessing our inner strength, our primal energy, and our capacity for deep understanding. They show us that true masculine power isn't about dominance or aggression, but about skillful action and insightful wisdom. But these are only two of the 4 key archetypes of mature masculinity that Jung and later authors like Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette so brilliantly explored. What about the energies that ground us in stable leadership, that allow us to build and to bless, and those that connect us most deeply to the pulse of life, to passion, and to others? In our next part, we'll delve into the vital and often misunderstood archetypes of the king and the lover. The warrior energy provides us with decisive action and boundaries, while the magician offers wisdom and insight. But for a man to truly stand centered and bring forth life-affirming order, and for him to connect deeply with the vibrant pulse of existence, 2 more archetypes of mature masculinity are essential: the king and the lover. Let's begin with the king. In its mature form, the king archetype is the source of inner stability, order, and integrity within a man's psyche. He is the part of us that takes ultimate responsibility, not just for our actions, but for the well-being of our realm, whether that realm is our family, our work, our community, or indeed, our own inner world. The king energy is not about dominating others. It's about a calm, centered authority that brings justice, clarity, and blessing. He provides a secure foundation, a sense of purpose, and a vision for the future. A man accessing his mature king energy is decisive, not from ego, but from a place of wisdom and care for the whole. He creates a space where others, and all parts of himself, can flourish. Think of the truly inspiring leader who empowers his team, the father who provides a safe and loving structure for his children, or any man who lives with a profound sense of his own sovereignty and generative power. But the king also has his shadow aspects. If this energy is corrupted or undeveloped, it can manifest as the tyrant, abusing power, controlling and demanding obedience. Or it can appear as the weakling king, abdicating responsibility, indecisive, and allowing chaos to reign in his life and surroundings. Then we have the lover. This archetype is the wellspring of passion, connection, and the deep embodied experience of life in all its richness. The lover is the part of us that feels deeply, that connects authentically with others, with nature, with art, with sensuality, and with the spiritual. He is the source of our zest for life, our empathy, our appreciation for beauty, and our capacity for profound intimacy and playfulness. It's the lover energy that makes life feel vibrant, meaningful, and worth living. He is not just about romantic or sexual love, though that is one of its expressions. It's about a passionate engagement with all of life. Consider the artist lost in the flow of creation, the mystic experiencing unity with the divine, or simply the man who can truly savor a beautiful sunset, or connect with another human being heart to heart. The shadow of the lover, however, can be consuming. It can manifest as addiction to substances, to sensations, to another person, or as debilitating emotional chaos, a loss of boundaries, or an inability to commit, forever chasing the next thrill without grounding. The ultimate aim, as Jung and his followers illuminated, is not to become fixated on or overly identified with just one of these archetypes. True psychological maturity and fullness for a man lies in the conscious development and dynamic balancing of all four: the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. Each brings essential qualities, and together they form an integrated, powerful, and life-affirming whole. The warrior acts, the magician understands, the lover connects, and the king centers and directs it all for a generative purpose. This balance isn't static. It's a constant dance, a process of learning to call upon the right energy at the right time. So, how does one cultivate these powerful archetypal energies within oneself? How do we move from just understanding them intellectually to actually embodying their wisdom and strength in our daily lives? This is where Jung's profound concept of the path of individuation comes in. The ultimate journey towards becoming your truest, most complete, and uniquely authentic self. And that's precisely what we will explore in our next crucial part. We've explored these four powerful archetypes, the king, warrior, magician, and lover, as essential energies within the mature masculine psyche, but simply knowing about them isn't enough. How do we cultivate them in a balanced way? How do we truly integrate them so they become living, breathing aspects of who we are rather than just intellectual concepts? Carl Jung proposed a lifelong, dynamic process for this very endeavor, a core concept in his psychology. The path of individuation. Individuation is, at its heart, the journey of becoming an individual, that is, a separate, distinct, and indivisible unity or whole. It's the innate human urge toward self-realization, the process of becoming the unique person you were always meant to be, free from the masks imposed by societal expectations, family conditioning, or your own unconscious complexes. This isn't about achieving some static state of perfection. Rather, it's a continuous unfolding, a courageous commitment to engaging with all aspects of your being. Several key elements we've already touched upon are fundamental to this path. It centrally involves confronting and integrating your shadow, courageously acknowledging those disowned parts, both dark and golden, and reclaiming their energy. It also requires developing a conscious relationship with your inner feminine, the anima, understanding its projections and integrating its qualities of relatedness, intuition, and emotional depth. Crucially, individuation is about strengthening the conscious ego, not in the sense of becoming egotistical, but developing a resilient, discerning center of awareness that can navigate the demands of the outer world while staying true to the imperatives of your inner world. And all of this is in service of connecting with what Jung called the self, the archetype of wholeness, the true center and regulating core of the entire psyche, which is far greater and more encompassing than the ego alone. This journey stands in stark contrast to the more common and often deeply unsatisfying strategies many adopt, either the path of constantly trying to please others, to gain approval and avoid conflict, which can lead to a loss of self, or the path of trying to dominate and control, driven by insecurity and a hunger for external validation, the shadow of the beast, perhaps. Individuation, instead, cultivates an inner directedness, a sense of worth and purpose that doesn't depend on external applause or the submission of others. Think of the classic hero's journey, a recurring motif in myths and stories worldwide. The hero often leaves the familiar world, ventures into unknown and dangerous territories, a metaphor for the unconscious, faces trials and confronts monsters both inner and outer, and eventually returns with a treasure, a boon that benefits not only himself, but his community. This is a powerful metaphor for the individuation process. It's not always easy. It demands courage, honesty, and perseverance. One common misunderstanding is that individuation leads to isolation or selfishness. In fact, Jung believed the opposite. By becoming more truly ourselves, more whole and authentic, we become capable of far deeper, more genuine, and more compassionate connections with others and with the world at large. The path of individuation is indeed the ultimate adventure, the journey to the core of who you are. It's challenging, yes, but its rewards are immeasurable. A life lived with greater authenticity, purpose, and a quiet, unshakable strength. But how does this deep inner work, this commitment to wholeness, translate into the way we attract and connect with others in the real world? How does an individuating man, a man on this path to wholeness, truly show up and relate? That's the powerful shift we'll explore as we move towards a new, more profound definition of attraction. We've journeyed through the profound concept of individuation, that lifelong path towards becoming your truest, most integrated self. So what does this deep inner work, this commitment to psychological wholeness, actually mean for attraction? Does it offer some hidden technique, some secret formula to suddenly become irresistible? Perhaps not in the way that superficial advice often promises. Instead, what emerges from the man truly engaged in his individuation is something far more organic, more substantial, and infinitely more compelling. A natural magnetism born from authenticity and inner wholeness. This isn't about trying to be attractive. It's about being a certain way that is inherently attractive. When a man has courageously faced his shadow, when he's beginning to understand and integrate his anima, when he's consciously cultivating the mature energies of the king, warrior, magician, and lover within him, he starts to emanate a different kind of presence. There's an undeniable authenticity to him. He's not wearing a mask, not playing a role, not desperately trying to be someone not in order to gain approval or a fleeting connection. This genuineness, in a world so often characterized by pretense, is incredibly rare and deeply captivating. He develops an inner strength, a centeredness. He knows who he is, what he stands for, and his sense of self isn't easily shaken by external opinions or the inevitable dramas of life. This isn't arrogance, It's a quiet confidence rooted in self-knowledge. Because he has explored the depths of his own psyche, he possesses a greater capacity for presence and a deeper understanding of the complexities of others. He can listen without just waiting to speak. He can engage without a hidden agenda. And that contained power we spoke of earlier. Having integrated aspects of his shadow, his primal energies are no longer wildly reactive or unconsciously destructive. Instead, they are channeled, purposeful. There's a sense that he possesses strength, but it's a strength that feels safe, controlled, and aligned with his values, which creates both security and intrigue. He becomes capable of genuine connection because he is relating from his whole self to the whole self of another, not just through a fog of unmet needs or unconscious projections. It's crucial to understand this isn't about achieving some static state of perfection. The very commitment to the journey of individuation, the ongoing process of growth, self-reflection, and integration makes a man more alive, more engaged with the world, more real. And that aliveness, that authenticity, is profoundly magnetic. It's a shift from the desperate pursuit of external validation to the quiet radiance of inner self-acceptance and knowing. True, lasting attraction isn't a tactic you learn or a persona you adopt. It's a natural consequence, a byproduct, of the man who has dared to know himself and is committed to living from that authentic core. This journey of becoming, of radiating from your deepest truth, is perhaps the most profound way to redefine not just attraction, but your entire experience of life and relationships. It's a commitment to your unique path and purpose. So, what does this awakened man's journey look like as a continuous, unfolding path? And how can you actively step onto it, or deepen your commitment to it, starting today? That's the final, empowering invitation we'll explore as we conclude our journey together. So we've journeyed together, redefining attraction not as a series of tactics or a superficial game, but as the natural radiance of an authentic, individuating self. This understanding, this shift in perspective, isn't an endpoint. It's an invitation to embark on, or to deepen, what Carl Jung called the most crucial adventure of all, the ongoing journey of becoming fully and truly yourself. This path of the awakened man, the individuating man, is not a destination you arrive at, but a way of living, a continuous unfolding. It means courageously choosing, again and again, to embrace your full depth, to continue exploring that vast inner landscape we've touched upon. Your shadow with its hidden power, your anima with its wisdom of connection, and the potent archetypal energies of the king, warrior, magician, and lover that lie waiting to be more fully embodied within you. Don't shy away from your complexity. It is the source of your unique richness. And as you embrace this depth, you are called to live your truth. This is perhaps the most profound and challenging aspect of the journey, to align your outer life with your deepest inner knowing, your authentic values, your unique purpose. It means stripping away the masks you've worn for others, the compromises you've made against your own soul, and daring to show up in the world as you truly are. And here lies a powerful secret. Living your truth, embracing your individuation, is not just about personal fulfillment. It is intrinsically linked to discovering a profound sense of meaning in your life. When you are no longer expending energy trying to be someone you're not, or chasing external validation, you free up immense vitality to invest in what truly matters to you, to contribute your unique gifts to the world. An awakened, individuating man doesn't just experience more authentic attraction and connection. He becomes a more positive, generative force in his relationships, his work, and his community. He brings the hard-won wisdom of his inner explorations, the strength of his integrated self, to everything he does. Remember, this path is not about achieving perfection. It is about courage. The courage to be imperfectly yourself. The courage to face discomfort and uncertainty. The courage to keep learning, keep growing, keep becoming. Your journey is uniquely your own, but you are not alone in this quest for depth and authenticity.
If what we've explored here resonates with you, if it has sparked a desire to delve deeper into your own potential, then I invite you to continue this exploration. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, as we will continue to navigate these vital terrains of human psychology and self-discovery together.
Share your insights, your questions, your own experiences in the comments below. Your voice adds to the collective wisdom. But most importantly, the greatest call to action is this. Begin today. Take one small step, however simple it may seem, towards understanding yourself more deeply, towards living more authentically. Embrace your depth. Live your truth. Because the world doesn't just need more nice guys or more beasts. It needs more conscious, whole, awakened men. Men who have found their inner compass and are navigating life with courage, integrity, and a profound sense of meaning. Thank you for joining me on this journey.